Hello, Lindsay Elliott from Lindsay Elliott Coaching here. So I'm going to talk today about the foundation from which we live our lives. So what do I mean by this? So really it's looking at the foundation or the premise from which we are coming from in our lives. And generally, for most people in our society, the foundation or the premise is that happiness, contentment, well-being, all of those things comes from either the job we have, the house we live in, the children we have or don't have, the relationships, the partner, the money, the health, how thin or fat our body is, the things that we own. And whilst I think we instinctively know that those things don't matter quite as much as we are kind of led to believe, if the foundation that we are living from is that our safety and our security and our sense of inner happiness and well-being comes from those things, then that can leave us on pretty shaky ground. Because as I think we've all seen this year, when something can happen that we are not expecting, and that's happened on a global level this year. It happens every day in everybody's lives. Unexpected things happen, difficult things happen, challenging things happen, but that's happened on a global level where health has gone for some people. Jobs have been lost, loved ones have died, how we're able to socialise has changed. I could go on and on. So the foundations on which we have built our life have been shaken this year. And if we are under the illusion that our happiness and our well-being is dependent on those things being in place, then we are at the mercy of them. So we end up, for example, scrabbling around really trying to control not losing our job because we believe that the role that we play at work is inherently part of who we are and is inherently part of our happiness. Or we end up trying to control our children or control our husband or our wife because we believe that our happiness is coming from that relationship with them. Or we can end up feeling really loads of anxiety and worry around money and how much debt we have, how much money we've got in the bank in terms of savings, because we believe that our safety and our security comes from those things too. That the foundation of money is important for our well-being and our happiness. And I'm not saying that having a roof over your head, having an income, having some money doesn't make life easier. I think probably it certainly does. But these things, any of these things that are outside of ourselves, these foundations are not inextricably linked to our happiness. Because I think you will see that even within a job that you love, there are days when you don't love it, when it doesn't make you feel happy, and there are days when it does make you feel happy. Even in a marriage that is going well, or a marriage that is going poorly, there will be both days when you feel connected and loving, even in a difficult marriage, and days when you don't feel happy in your marriage, on days when you just feel pretty neutral, you're not really feeling anything about your marriage. And the same with children. Now you may have a foundation of love for them, there may be that as an undercurrent, I know there is in my relationship with my son, but some days it looks like he makes me feel happy and some days it looks like he makes me feel unhappy. So all of these things that are outside of us, that we innocently run around trying to control and manage and hold in place because we believe our happiness is inextricably linked to them. It's exhausting, and B, we can't control it anyway. And I think we've really seen that this year. And I'm sure that everybody has examples in their lives where you've seen that you thought you had something under control and you didn't. And just to see that regardless of what circumstance you find yourself in, your experience of it will fluctuate. Your experience of your job, of money, of debt, of health, of children, of relationships will all fluctuate within any given period of time. So So that begs the question, and I've been talking to this a lot with my clients about, well, what foundation do we look for? Where does our happiness and our safety and our security come from? And how I choose to view life, or what seems true to me, is that those things are what we have going for us, what we have already within each and every one of us, what we are born with. So happiness I think is slightly different, because I think that just fluctuates. I think it's an emotion, it's a feeling, and that comes from our thinking in the moment. So as our thinking about our circumstances, our life, how we're doing changes, so will our feelings of happiness. But the safety and the security and knowing we are okay, I believe that is, and what I have seen time and again in myself, in my friends, in my loved ones, in my clients, is that is something when we can recognise it. Sorry, you can probably hear my puppy barking. When we can recognise that it's there within us, inherently within all of us, and it isn't going anywhere because it's part of our nature. We're born with it. Children, you can see it very clearly in children, that there's this kind of constant energy that pushes them to grow and to learn, and then they have fluctuations in experience around that, but generally they bob back. They might have a tantrum, be really upset, and then they bob back to this place of peace and joy and just love. And we all have that going for us if we have eyes for it. If we have eyes for seeing through the busyness of the mind, and have eyes to see that we have a foundation, because we are all connected to this deeper wisdom of life, this intelligence of life that I've talked about in previous videos, that is spinning the planet and beating our hearts and breathing our lungs and making cells into a baby that then makes a baby into a toddler. That energy is inherently within us, and that's where we can have our safety and our security and our deep sense of knowing that we can be okay no matter what. That resilience that's within all of us. So I'm not saying that losing a loved one, losing a job, being in debt, losing your home, those aren't difficult experiences to come from, to experience, to go through. But what I'm saying is that there is always a foundation that isn't an illusion, a foundation that is real and true and solid, that we can rely on even more during those difficult times, and actually all of the happiness and well-being that we've ever been looking for is already within us. And that those outside fluctuations of things in the world, relationships, money, all the things I've talked about, that's all going to change, because it's transient. It's always moving, it's in flux, like our emotions, like our thinking. That's the stuff of life. The one thing we can guarantee is it's going to change. This body will die, this body's going to get old, this body's going to have different levels of money, different levels of health. But there is a constancy that we can rely on when we're not always turned towards what is fluctuating. So I hope that is helpful, given the year that we have just been through, and given that we're probably going to be going into much the same at the beginning of next year. That the foundations that we thought maybe we could rely on are not there. And when we're going through a period like that, either individually or collectively, as we are, it's a really golden opportunity to look within to what you really have going for you, what you absolutely can rely on. That every single human being it's the design, it's how we're built, that we can rely on this connection to an intelligence greater than ourselves, that's always going to be there for us, regardless of what's happening in the outside physical world. And for me, the more that I remember that, the more I think to look there, the more I can turn my attention away from what's going on in my psychology, and the more I look to that innate essence within me, the more just natural peace there is amid the turbulent stuff that goes on in life. So I think this is going to be my last video for this year. So if it is, I'm going to be coming out with a new audio though soon for subscribers to my list. So if you're watching this sometime before the end of the year, have a beautiful Christmas, a wonderful start to 2021, and I will be back in the new year. Okay, much love.